Long time no see! Hello, it's me again. Before we begin this video, I would like to apologize for my total inactivity and explain why I haven't really been uploading at all for months. I'm really sorry if you enjoyed my content and have been waiting this long. See, I wanted to make a video not long after my previous one, but realized that something like that has already been made, and I slowly began to lose my interest, as I noticed that the game is 2 chapters in, and I think we've already discussed and tried out everything there is. Besides, there are plenty of other Deltarune YouTubers, so I just kinda retreated. So, throughout the months, I've begun to make other stuff throughout this time, including Deltarune projects. But I decided that I have stalled enough, and I should make a video for you people. Even if there is a video like mine somewhere with similar beats, I decided not to look for it. I do not want to lose my will to do the videos again. So here's the explanation. Really sorry you had to wait so long. Without further ado, let's get on with my video. The Ice Palace. A very strange teaser revealed to us in the Spamton Sweepstakes ARG. While the ARG had a lot of stuff to it, most of it is still cloaked in total mystery. A lot of the stuff shown there were teasers to future chapters, like the Cowboy Chris and Susie, though that one may get cancelled, or the Shadow Man, or more mysterious stuff like Dess's guitar or the weird chair face. However, quite a lot of the stuff was shown in the form of a blog of a young Noel writing about video games and creepy glitches. From it, we've got really interesting stuff like Spamton and Noel's first interaction, or a story of Susie bullying and targeting Chris, or Chris's strange piano playing habits. But the one we still completely can't figure out, however, is her story about the Ice Palace. Let me read out the story for you. Unless you don't want to hear it, in which case go to this timestamp. Anyone else wander around this screen as a kid? The cross-shaped maze in the ice area from Dragon Blazers. Once you go in it, no matter where you go, you'll always be brought back to the same room. Normally, one of the characters is supposed to guide you through the maze, but it became one of the most famous, or should I say infamous, parts of the game, because if you go there without that character, you'll get basically stuck. Forever. The developers actually say something about this in the manual. It warns you this glitch is actually one of the bad guy's magic spells. Yeah, sorry guys, I think you were just eating a little too much fruitcake when making this part of the game. As a kid, I had no idea this was a glitch. I literally spent hours on the screen, wandering around thinking there was an exit. The thing is, there actually is one. Somehow, kid me was so stubborn, I think I went every single possible direction. Somehow. Then, the last direction you go is up. If you do that, you'll find a door that doesn't appear anywhere else in the game. This shocked me so much as a kid, I screamed and pulled my controller so hard, it unplugged from the console. I actually started crying, but I knew my mom would turn off the game if she heard me, so I held my breath and started hiccuping and gasping. I literally thought I was going to choke on my tears. It only made me cry more that I had to plug the game back in by myself. I was so scared that I would get electrocuted and die from the wires. I was actually always afraid of electrical sockets too, because I thought they were looking at me. Come on, I wasn't a weird kid, I promise I got over it after that. So, I started the game again, and with my hands shaking, I went right back into the maze. But what's super weird was that somehow I was able to get right back at the door. I was so happy I almost started screaming again, but remembered to hold my breath halfway. Now I was going to be able to see what was in the secret door. Or so I thought. It was locked, and I've never been able to find any key in the game that opens it. Since then, I can actually get to the door pretty consistently if I concentrate. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, and it feels different every time, so I can't give any advice. I know this sounds really fake, but if anyone ever figures out a way to open the door, please sign my guest book. I'll even put you in my Hall of Fame. You know, so there can be someone in it besides me. Now, let's analyze it. starting with the obvious part. Ice Palace is in Dragon Blazers, a reoccurring video game in the universe of Deltarune, its musical theme being Glacier, a misspelling of glacier. Not only that, it was already mentioned before. In Chapter 1, when Noelle has a chat with her dad in the hospital, he asks her whether she finished Dragon Blazers 3, and she responds saying that she's stuck in the Ice Palace area, waiting to finish it with him. And later on in Chapter 2, she admits to having trouble defeating a silver Drake boss that is fire resistant. First, let us note here that in the blog she played Dragon Blazers, while in the game she plays Dragon Blazers 3. So during that time span, probably 2 other games released that still keep the Ice Palace area, with the blog one being the first. See, Dragon Blazers is a funny thing too. It is a reoccurring game throughout Chapter 2, played by Noelle, Susie and Berdly. Once, it was even used as an allegory to Deltarune the game. When a Viroviro-kun explains how battling works to her, she says it's kind of like Dragon Blazers. Moving on to Chapter 2. Predicting through Dragon Blazers. So, a little funny thing from Chapter 2 was elevated into something much more important due to the sweepstakes, that will be used in-game as other teasers signify. What could be its significance exactly? Well, if we do take into account that it was used as an allegory to Deltarune itself, we could try to use it to show more foreshadowing later on, something that Toby really loves doing. According to the dialogue in Chapter 2, the mage left the party, and if it means something, either Ralsei or Noelle will have to split from the party, perhaps due to a fallout. And the gang will have to fight a fire-resistant boss called the Silver Drake, so a dragon. Currently nobody has fire magic, but Toriel or Ralsei are contenders. This is just food for thought though. The things I want to talk about is her blog, as according to it, a character is supposed to join the party and guide you through the palace. And if you don't have that character, you will be lost forever. If you go in every possible direction in the palace, and then up, you'll find a door that never appears anywhere else. After rebooting the game, you will be able to get right back to it, and the door is locked and the key has not been found. If we try to connect the blog to a future chapter, then the Ice Palace would be a real area that we'd have to go through, and in it, we'd have Noelle guide us through, considering she explored every nook and cranny of the place, and if we don't have Noelle with us, we could get lost forever, perhaps in the Snowgrave. It would also be possible to enter a mysterious door that doesn't usually appear, probably only with Noelle's help. Sound familiar? Yeah, I'm certainly not the only one that thought about Gaster, though personally I think this door has a connection to the December holiday. See, Des, as we all know it, is a character that's missing somewhere, with many linking her to the hidden unused code in the game. Someone who appears to be lost in some dark mysterious place, begging for someone to hear them. And as another page suggests, we are tasked with finding her. Don't you see some correlation here? Especially thinking about Deltarune's correlation between itself and Dragon Blazers. Think of Noelle, who explored the Ice Palace head to toe, walking in every direction and checking everything, then being met with a mysterious door she has no key for. Then think about us, the fanbase, who thoroughly check every line of code as we are starved for secrets. And we did find something, a pleading voice trapped in a game's code. Moving to Chapter 3, Des and the Palace. Does the Ice Palace mystery have a correlation with Des and her disappearance? I think so, especially since the same ARG nudged us into thinking about her, and because Noelle's family already has ties to the Ice Palace from Dragon Blazers. Now, it's important to think about whether Des has already went missing as the blog was written. I am adamant that she did go missing at that time. Noelle's weird story about Icy's pizza box was written in very childish writing, full of typos and misspellings. And due to Berdly's backstory cutscene, Noelle broke down at the word December when she was very young from her sprite, about 1st, 2nd or 3rd grade. The Holiday Girl blog is written in good English, so a passage of time surely has passed. What could this mean then? How does the Ice Palace connect to Des? See, in the same IRG, in the same blog, we learned of a very, very important thing that nearly discredited the last Tuesdayism theory, that assumed Darkners have a completely made-up past. I'm talking about the Blue Circle blog entry, or the Pippi's origins. In it, Noelle, sometime before game events, decided to mod a pet game called Cat Petters, using code from spam mail. She got a multiplying blue circle. Later down the line, the Spamton Q&A informed us that that was Spamton gifting her Pippies, years before the fountain was created. This is very important info. This signifies that not only do Dark Worlds and Darkners exist before a fountain's creation, they can influence the Light World. What do I want to say here? See, with the information I just gave you, would it be far-fetched to assume that someone from the Dark World is influencing Noelle's nostalgic game to tell something to Noelle, with Noelle being held back permanently behind a locked door? Could it be that Des Holiday, trying to communicate with Noelle from some dark world or deeper depths, or anybody for that matter? I think it's very plausible. Hell, Des already could have done something like that with Spamton, who also has ties to Noelle, though this time trying to connect with Chris. Concluding, the Ice Palace most probably is connected to Des and Noelle, an area that represents her and Des's struggle to return after going missing, presumably in a dark world, connected to the bunker that Chris doesn't really seem to like. Strangely, she seems to hear scratching, maybe hearing someone trying to get to her? Whether it's Noelle, or Chris, or Gaster, or us, or maybe something sinister with bad intentions. For that, I do not have an answer. Also, do keep in mind that Des being the unused code is completely speculative, though we do know that she's missing and Chris doesn't like the bunker, so I assume she got lost in some dark world that is represented by image/depth. Now that we figured out that the Ice Palace is supposed to signify Des's disappearance and is tied to Noelle, where and how would it appear exactly? Let's move on to chapter 4. Now, let us theorize about what possible chapter and time could it appear in. I list the important chapter information to take into account. The Sweepstakes ARG and newsletters, which have mostly teased chapter 3 and its theme. Though, they did branch out on mysteries that probably won't appear immediately in chapter 3, such as the Des guitar. The only fully confirmed thing from chapter 4 is what was seen in the status update, though we can safely assume the Cup Wolka thing is from chapter 4, as the team is working on it now and Chris's house doesn't seem to have red plastic cups. Though I don't think that any house has, since they're for parties or events. In Twitter concept art that Toby released, we see Susie taking red juice from a glass. Red juice here reminding me a lot of Alvin's sick fruit juice from the church service, with plastic cups for example being used to drink said fruit juice. Or it could be connected to ICs or QCs. We also do know that Rudy wants to come to the church the day after chapter 2. Despite chapter 5 not being released with the others, Toby and his team are working on it. Besides, it was planned to release together. And one last thing to note. As Dark Worlds seem to be an allegory to escapism so far, we see them with themes of popular escapism forms, like tabletop games, the internet, and TV watching. With that out of the way, what chapter will the Ice Palace appear in? Let's discuss each possibility. For chapter 3, Chris and Azriel do have games in their room, and while Dragon Blazers isn't mentioned under Azriel's bed, he does have cat petters from Cathy's family. And though we can assume that Noelle doesn't appear in this chapter, the unused sneaking track mysteriously has the lost girl motif, tied both to Noelle and Des. A counter-argument, however, is that chapter 3, as we know, will have a theme of TV entertainment, which would clash with suddenly experiencing games as entertainment, especially since the Green Room, an obvious TV reference with actor Green Rooms, already has ties to Azriel and Chris's room. Moving on to chapters 4 and beyond. Which places? With the evidence we've gotten from newsletters or tweets, the chapter is assumedly a church-based one, basing on the cup. but since it's a simple cup, it could very well be QC's, Cathy's house, or dear lord, Ice-E's. And while Ice-E's is tied to Noelle with that pizza box story, none of the 4 places particularly scream video games to me, other than maybe Ice-E's as like a McDonald's gift toy being a video game, though Dragon Blazers is something in Noelle's possession. If not Chris's house, there are 2 very obvious contenders for a video game Dark World, or a specifically Dragon Blazers chapter. Noelle's home or the hospital makes the most sense. Going back on the Dragon Blazers Foreshadow's future Deltarune thing, Noelle said a very striking thing when she admitted she couldn't get past Ice Palace. She said she wants to finish it with Rudy. Almost like Foreshadowing, Noelle making a fountain to cure Rudy with a spell. Rudy does want to come to the church, but his condition may get worse, which is what the game seems to be hinting at. So Noelle may want to create a dark fountain in the hospital to heal her dad, or the house if it's hospice care. This also does keep with the theme of escapism, RPG games here. It would also be where this mystery gets slowly revealed. This does make most sense to me as Chapter 5, since I don't believe Chapter 6 and 7 would get teased so early by the sweepstakes. Besides, as I said, Chapters 3 to 5 were supposed to release together, closing the sweepstakes in a neat bundle by teasing both Chapter 3 and 5. This is just speculation, of course. Now that the video is about to end, let me make a conclusion. The Ice Palace is an area that Noelle holds very near and dear to her, in the game Dragon Blazers, which was used as an allegory to the game Deltarune. December, who is lost and confused in the depths, may have been trying to get to Noelle all these years, same as she seemingly communicated to Chris via Spamton. As an allegory to Deltarune, we may also use the Ice Palace to predict certain plot points later in the game. As for the chapter Ice Palace will appear in, the highest probability would be a hospital or Noelle's house Dark World, with a theme of video games, but Chris's house in chapter 3 is also a decent contender. Anyways, this is it. This is my theory regarding Ice Palace and its connections to December's disappearance. Once again, I'm sorry for making you wait so long, and feel free to leave any comments or your personal theories towards Ice Palace, or any sort of feedback regarding my videos. I always love to read them. If I do get back on track of the videos, would you be interested in me making more sweepstakes theories and analyses, like Susie's bullying and Chris's piano concert, or maybe even the chair's mystery? Please do tell me. And that's about it. Goodbye.